All right, so the first thing that I have to do is base coat this. Now I kind of have this prepared in steps for all of you because for time factor, of course. Thank you, Lisa, I appreciate that. So I'm going to use a little bit of chalk paint to base my bottle. And how I did this was I have these little sponges from Dollar Tree. I think they were a Dollar Tree. And these are pretty handy things, I have to say. They're good size, so they cover a lot of area and quickly. So this was the easiest way that I found to get the paint onto, and I just dipped it straight into my, I don't know if that's good or not, but I just kind of dipped it straight in there. And I just patted it on all the way around my bottle. And I just covered the whole thing with 2 coats. Now I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to cover the whole thing with 2 coats right now because I do have one ready to go, but I just kind of wanted to show you. Like these were a pack of 3, I believe, for $1.25 or whatever it is at the dollar store. So how are you all doing? I'm just kind of like blew right into the old crafting because I really want to get as far along as I can with this craft. So I'm Yvette from Old Times Paint Parties. I do a little painting, I do a little crafting. So I really struggled with this trash to treasure thing because, wow, it really makes you, Tracy's really making us think outside the box for this one. Let me just move my camera a little bit. I'm kind of off kilter here. And have you been watching over in the Craft Around the Clock group? If you're watching from my business page, make sure you pop over there because there has been some pretty genius ideas for trash to treasure over in the Craft Around the Clock group. I put the link up top, so make sure you go over there and check out all of the crafty things that have been going on over there with trash to treasure this week. Hi Deanna, hi Jessica. So anyways, I think you get the idea. So I just pretty much just patted that all the way, and I painted all the way up to the top, and I put 2 coats on. So like I said, to save time, I went ahead and, let me just get that out of the way, cover up my chalk paint. And I found chalk paint covered it better than, for the base coating, better than the acrylic paint. Nothing against acrylic paint, it's just chalk paint tends to be a little thicker and goes on a little smoother for the glass surface. So that was my thoughts on that anyway. And just put that aside. So I do have my bottle here. So you can probably see where we're going with this. We're going to turn this wine bottle into a scarecrow. That's the goal. It's the goal, ladies. All right. So I've drawn out my little face and I just put his eyes on, and holy heck, where's my, right there. Put my nose on and my eyes. And I mean, you could draw this out any way you like. You could, you know, do your own creation of your scarecrow face. And I'm going to do his nose red. So I'm going to base coat his nose with a little bit of gray first. Whew. I was busy getting ready, and I was, you know, when you first start a live, you got to like just calm yourself down. Calm down, Yvette. So where is everybody watching from today? From my business page, or are you watching in from the Craft Around the Clock group? I'm day 2 into my vacation from work, and of course I've probably been just as busy as when I work. It's been busy 2 days. All right, so the reason why I'm doing this is kind of like a primer under your red. Some of you ladies may already know this little trick, and if you don't, then It's a good trick to know. It just makes your red a little bit more vibrant, and you don't have to use as many coats of that. So I'm going to go ahead and start blocking in his little eyes while that's drying. CRTC group from Fort Wayne, Indiana, from the Craft Around the Clock group. Oh, nice. I'm glad you're tuning in from the group. It's good to see some new people. So I'm just going to, I kind of have like a little 3-tier eyeball here. So, and you don't have to make yours as, you know, as this many layers as I have. You can just do round or ovals or whatever you want. And I'm just going to be turning my little wine bottle around so I can reach it a little bit better so you can still see what I'm doing. I kind of want to get his face painted a little bit quick, just because it takes a little bit longer to put the rest of them together than it really does to paint him. So I'm just going to dry this pretty quick here. Thank you, Connie, for sprinkling. I appreciate that. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my red. How do I learn to do the face? You mean how did I just drew it. I just drew it. I just more or less doodled it out there. So I'm just going to add my red over top of my gray. Just trying to concentrate to keep within those lines there so I don't go outside the lines, outside of my gray. All right, so we have that first layer on there, and we might not need any more than that. Once we dry it, we'll see how it goes. I think it might be okay just with that one layer on there. So I'm going to add a little bit, I'm going to give him some blue eyes. Oh, thank you, Frankie. And I'm going to shade on his little eyes here with this lighter blue color. We're just going to go under here. I have a blue-eyed scarecrow. And you just want to get in there. All right, it's that simple. We gave him a little bit of blue eyes, and I'm going to actually darken those down. Hi, Leanne. Darken those down a little bit, just near the edge of the black. Just near the edge of the black here. Give it a little bit of more dark hue. And I mean, these are just little extras. You don't have to go this far. I just thought it made his eyes look pretty neat by doing this. And then we're basically going to just outline those with a little bit of black in my liner brush, and you could also use a Posca pen for this as well. It doesn't have to be your black paint and liner, just anything that's easiest for you to do. So let's see how we do here. Just line these out. And I'm not trying to be perfect. If I, make it a little bit wider like I did on the bottom there, I'm not going to get too worried or worked up about that. I'm fine with it. I'll bring his little eyelash line over there. Ran out of paint there. So if you're not confident enough to use your liner brush like this, Posca pens or paint pens come in really handy here. I just find I have a little more control with, and we made that one a little wider, so we're going to do the same thing over here just to make it look the same. Always fix things with paint. And then I'm going to give him a little bit of we're going to give him some eyelashes. We're going to give him a few little eyelashes here. Make him fancy. Fancy eyelashes. He's probably got nicer eyelashes than I do. He's wearing the good mascara. All right. And then I'll put a couple up this way. All right, so he's starting to have some character now. He's starting to look like a somebody. So thank you, Cindy. I'm going to do a little bit of burnt umber, and I'm going to shade around his nose a little bit and his eyes, just to give that a little bit of depth. And we'll just bring a little bit of that burnt umber in here, and it also makes him a little bit rustic, sort of. We want that. It's fall, right? Fall decor, you want it to be a little rustic. Just kind of makes his eyes pop there. Thank you, Lisa. So I'm going to go around his nose too. You still have to put his mouth on here. That's pretty quick. Like I said, once we get the face painted, you can do that pretty quickly. And then we have other little elements we're going to add to this guy. And if we don't get finished in my amount of time that I'm here, I do have a demo done, so I'll show you what he looks like completed if we don't get that far. All right, so now let me see. I'm gonna grab some black. We're gonna give him some eyelashes, or eyebrows, excuse me. We already gave him eyelashes. Give him a little bit of eyebrow here. Yeah, he's starting to get some character there. And I'm going to, let's see here, I'll just put that there so he doesn't roll. I'm going to just dry brush his nose a little bit. With some burnt orange, just to give it a little contrast too. All right. know if you guys can see that really well, but it just kind of gives it another little, there, I'll start to build it up there and you might be able to see it a little bit better. Just gives it a little bit of texture and it changes the whole look of things when you dry brush. It actually works out pretty cool. All right, so I need to, just don't want to touch with all that orange paint on my hand. All right. Thank you, Connie. So I want to also, I'm going to grab a little bit of my lighter blue and I'm just going to put a little line here. We'll finish up his eyes so they can be drying while we're doing other things. And then we want to add a little dot of, I'm going to do a little dot of that blue color here. We'll give him his little highlights here so he can see, and we'll just let that dry for a second, and I'll add a couple little white dots in there as well. Oh, thank you, Tracy. All right, and then we'll just add a little bit of white in here, and it's just to give those little highlights so that it just brings the eyes to life a little bit. And these are still wet, but I'm going to try and put, usually we'll wait until these are dry, but I'm going to try and put my little white dot on. Oh, it's working okay. Sometimes when they're wet, you can't add that little white dot there, but I'll also add a couple little, so now you can see that eye just comes to life with those little highlights. Super cute, that guy. Okay. So the next thing I'll do is I'm going to outline his nose, same way with the black and my liner brush. Oops, a little too much water on there. When we're lining, we have to stay quiet to see. When I talk, I make jiggles. So I have to stay quiet when I do my liner brush. You don't want the jiggles. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to put a few little stitch lines because his nose has to look like it's a little patch on there. Hi, Patty. We're glad you came. Late or not, doesn't matter. All right, and then I'm going to grab a little bit of white. Hi, Andrea. How are you? All right, so I'm going to put a little highlight down his nose here. And a couple little dots down here. So there's his nose and his eyes are finished. So now we have to work on his mouth. So I'm going to just draw this on again. I'm not going to, is it actually an eyeliner brush? No, it's actually, it's a fine liner. It's a 10-0, actually this one's a 5-0, but I use 5 zeros and 10 zeros liner brushes. So I'm just going to draw his little mouth on, and this is just going to be random. I'm just going to do a little squiggle here. Doesn't matter, you know, you just go with it, and we'll give him a little chin line there. And what I'm going to do first, though, is we'll get our little bottle here so he doesn't roll over on the wet paint. And I'm going to clean out this little dry brush here that I use, and I'm going to give him some rosy cheeks, and we're going to do that just with a little bit of pink, we're almost done his face, and then we can get working on, how much time do I have? Oh, we're all right for a minute. We might be okay. We'll get there. All right, so I'm just gonna move that out of the way. So I'm just going to dry brush a little pink cheek on here. Both sides. I might have to get some more paint on my brush. It's a great way to recycle, you know, like if you have wine bottles or, you know, it's a great way to recycle. Instead of having to throw them out into the recycle bin, you can make something fun with them. All right, so we're going to line out his mouth now, same way with the black and the liner brush. And I'm just going to go right in there with that. And again, if you want to use a paint pen for this, by all means, it works just as well. All right, whew, got all our lining done. Oh yes, the sunflower wine glass. Yes, it actually would. You could definitely. I'm just going to put a few little X's here on his mouth, like little stitches. And then our last little step, we're going to just do a little bit of that shading around there, like we did around the eyes. So I'm just going to dry that quick so I don't smudge it. Draw one, Leanne, can't you? Come on. Oh, thank you, Patty. Okay, so we're just going to do the same sort of thing. We're just going to get a little more water on our brush here. And we're just going to shade around the outer edge of his mouth. Again, because you can see when you add the shading, it just gives it that little bit more depth. It's not like it's just hanging out there on its own. All right. Okay, so that's basically his little face. We'll put a little bit on his chin line there too. So that's all the painting really that we're going to be doing. So we have his face on there. He's looking pretty handsome. So I'll just give this a quick dry. Thank you, Charlotte. Thanks, Patty. Okay. So I think what I'll do is I'll pop my view up front ways so we can, you can kind of look straight at me. So forgive me if I'm not looking in the right place. I'll be looking at that camera and at my comments too. But I just kind of want you to see what's going on here. So I can sit this guy up now. You can kind of see, wrong way, see, there. And I'll get rid of this because I got a double head there. All right, so the next thing that I wanted to do with this guy is I want to give him some hair. So we're gonna add some raffia. And this stuff is super messy, and you know what raffia is like. And this might be, you know, it'll be a little bit time consuming. So I just kind of grabbed, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong camera. I just kind of grabbed a piece and I just folded it. Just kind of folded it like that. And what we're gonna do is we're going to hot glue some hair kind of all the way around, just around that front. You can give them a few bangs if you want to. And I'm just gonna grab my stylus. Now I'm not gonna put all of this hair on here because it takes a little while, and I think you'll get the idea once we get going. Hi, Pat. Grass skirts. Oh, Beulah. That's a good idea. Yeah, and it wouldn't be near as time consuming as this either, because, you know, it's going to take a few minutes too, and I don't, you know, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time. I think you kind of get the idea where we're going. We want to give them some hair. Give them some straw for hair. So I'm just folding that in half. And then I'm just gonna see where I'm at over here. I'm gonna turn them backwards so you can't see for a second. And we'll glue that on there. Trying not to burn myself. All right. So I'm just going to do that much for now because I want to show you the next step. So you can go all the way around there, just around here, and you'll see better when I show you the finished one. What have I got going on here? Somehow got a needle in there. Okay. So the next thing I did was I have a piece of burlap, and I had this, I wanted it to be kind of stiff. So I did have this, it has a pattern on the back of it, but I'm going to flip it this way, so we're not really going to see that. But what I was more concerned about was that it had a little bit of stiffness to it. And I'm just going to cut, you guys see that? I'm just going to cut one way, about 1 inch, and then I'm going to fold it. I'm going to get rid of my paint tray. I'm going to fold it the other way and do a bit the same thing, about 1 inch in. Oops, that went a little too far. But what you see is I have like this little hole in there. So we're gonna just put that right over. So you see it's gonna be his little floppy hat brim, and I'm gonna trim this so that you can see his face a little bit better. Now, if this didn't have a pattern on it, I would probably flip it up and glue it like that so that it looked, you know, like a little, whoops, wrong way. These cameras, I tell you. So, you know, give it a little flip, but it had that pattern on it, so I didn't really want to flip it up like that. If it was just plain, I probably would have done that. So I'm just going to turn this around here so I can glue this down. And we'll just get this in place. Now, if it starts to, you know, if it's a little too big, I did with the other one, I kind of folded this back a little bit and I kind of put a crease in it. And all I used to cut this circle out was I just used like a small plate. And, you know, it probably could have been a little bit smaller, but I kind of wanted it to be floppy enough that I could cut it back if I needed to. Or big enough that if I needed to. Now let me see here. I'm going to pull that back like that, and I'm going to glue that down at the back right there so it stays right there. Kind of have to just play with it a little bit to get it to go where you want it to. All right. Kind of doing this quick and willy-nilly, but you know, we can, when you're doing yours, if you're inspired enough to try one of these little guys. So there you can see he's got his hat brim, so he's looking pretty cool. So after you get that all glued on there, let me get a glue stick here. Let me get a glue stick. I'm gonna take some jute and I'm gonna wrap this top part here with some jute. So that'll be like kind of like the top part of his hat. And you just take that all the way around. So I'll be spinning this a little bit, guys. Sorry if that makes you dizzy. I don't mean to. We don't want to make you dizzy. All right, we'll just get that started and then we'll just start wrapping. So we're just going to take this all the way around and just, I got a little bit of glue at the back there and I'm just kind of going straight through it. Now I only had this fine jute here, but you could probably use a little thicker jute and it wouldn't take near as long, but you know, whatever works, whatever you have. So we'll just kind of get this spun on here quick like. And more glue on here. So what do you think, guys? Would you try one of these? I did use chalk paint, yes. I based the bottle with some chalk paint. And I put two good coats of chalk paint on there. I just found it's nice and thick and it covers really well. And I just dabbed it on with a dauber, a big dauber, Cecile. Just a big sponge. I didn't want to paint it on because you know how sometimes when you paint on bottles it can kind of leave those bare streaks and you can kind of see through it. All right, we're almost to the top here, my friends. Let me get my hand in that hot glue. Ugh. Scarecrow is made from a wine bottle. It's a wine bottle. All right, we're getting there. We're near the top. Good job this neck wasn't any longer. You would have to use a napkin. You can't, a napkin for, I'm not sure where you were going with that, Connie. I can only see your message so far. And that might be Facebook doing that, I'm not sure. Sometimes it cuts the messages off and I can't see them. That one's got to come down a little bit. And I'm doing this fast, like I said, because I'm trying to show you all the steps. But again, you're probably getting the general concept. So when I got to the top here, I kind of looped it at the center and I needed something to put here. And I suppose I could have taped that before, which, you know, would have made sense, but then I didn't. So what I did was I just kind of crumpled up a piece of paper towel and I kind of stuffed it in there. And this might be an archaic way of doing this, but that's what I did. That's how I made do when I got to the top. So I'm just going to show you exactly what I did. And then I'm just going to put my glue up in here. And I just covered that whole thing there. So I'm going to stick my fingers in that hot glue and I'm sticking all over the place here. So when I got to the top, I just kind of brought it right in a circle, in on that hot glue in there, just to cover it all. And I used my little stylus here because I didn't want to get my fingers burnt. So if you have, you know, little finger cots, you can use those so you don't burn yourself, because it gets a little bit sketchy up here, trust me. And nobody needs hot glue burns. Like, we probably all had enough of those. All right, so I'm just gonna cut this and tuck my little end in. Oh, you can barely draw a circle. Okay, Connie, I wasn't sure. I'm just gonna put another little dab in there so that I can stick that right in there. He's looking pretty cute, isn't he, Sherry? All right, so now we're just gonna stick that right on down. So now you can see his little hat is starting to come together. Can you guys see that okay? Isn't he cute? So you know you'll have more hair. If you want more hair, you put more jute or whatever you're gonna use for hair. So because this is a little bit, I don't know, let me see. I think I'm gonna just trim out his hat just a little bit here so we can see his eyes a little bit better. We don't want him to be totally hidden under there. And you know, if you want to fray the edges of your hat too, with the burlap, just pull a few little sprigs out there. You can do that too. So there you can see he's pretty darn cute. All right, so then I'm going to give him a bow down here, and I'll just get the start of that ready. So I have some, I'll just cut this to size. Get that on there. Again, make sure, because this is, I'm using burlap ribbon, so when you touch it, that glue is going to come out of there, so just be careful. Oh, I hope you do, Nikki. Yes, do try one. It's actually, he's quite fun to make. Let me just get my glue strings out of here. So I'm just wrapping that around that bottom edge. And it's still a bit long, but I'm just going to glue this down here. Thank you, guys. All right, so then you can kind of just trim off that excess there. And then I'll turn him around. I don't know if you guys can see him really well so far. I'm gonna put a bow here as well, but you can also dress up his little hat. What do we got for time? Okay, we got a couple minutes. So I have some leaves here and some flowers. So I mean, you can go ahead and, you know, glue on some leaves and some flowers. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm gonna just, you know, start putting those guys on there. All right. I'm just gonna whip them around here for a second so I can see where I'm going with my leaves. So I just have these are the little leaves that I used, I think, in my last project, the little maple leaves. And I'm gonna put these on and then I'll hold them up and show you. And I also got a few little fall flower sprigs from the Buck store as well. Oh, thank you, Cecile. Thank you, Connie. So I'm just gonna put these on here, just random like. I'm not gonna profess to be an amazing flower arranger by any means. I'm just doing what goes. It's just whatever goes with me. We're putting it on there. So then I got these little flower sprigs here. So I just took, you know, a few of those little different ones, and I have some yellow ones. We'll grab an orange one here and a red. And I'm also going to use some of these leaves that, see if I can get them off. some of these leaves that are on here as well, just for a different kind of leaf. I got 4 minutes. So I'm just going to keep going here until I have about maybe 1 minute left, and I'll show you my finished guy. I'll show you what he looks like when he's all done. And he has all the right appropriate hair and all that kind of stuff. Because seriously, this guy needs more hair. Yeah, that burlap is two-sided. It was a printed burlap that I was just using stuff that I had here. You don't have to use that. It's just, that's what's on the back of mine. It's just because what I had. Ideally, I would have liked to have had, you know, burlap that didn't have that, but it's always good to use what you have. You know, all those crafts that we hoard, it's kind of nice to use them once in a while. Trust me, there's an arsenal up in here. I don't know. We all probably have one. So I'm just going to add a few little flowers, and then I'm going to show y'all. I don't know, you guys, I'm sorry I'm not turning it around there. I will in a second. So far, that's what he's looking like. He's getting a little flowers in his hat. So he's looking pretty darn cute there. What do you think? I think he's pretty handsome. So we'll add, I got some yellow flowers here too. Let's put a yellow one on there. What the heck? Put some yellow on there. And I think I'll add a red one, and that'll be it for me. That's good. Thank you. Yeah, he's a fun little project to make. What are we for time? 2 minutes. 2 minutes, ladies. 2 minutes. We did pretty good, actually, in the amount of time we had. You definitely have an arsenal. Yes, I bet you do, Pat. I would love to get looking at your arsenal that you have. So I have also these little sprigs here that came on that, you know, you can tuck a few of those in there. Oh, we're down to 1 minute. Okay, so you know, you could go ahead and just keep playing around with your little, but anyways, that's kind of like where I was going. I also, you'll see the bow on the finished one. So let me just show you my finished guy so you can see what he looks like. So that's my finished guy. Isn't he adorable? And there's this little bow there. And you know, you could put another little, I didn't put anything here, but I mean, you could put a little flower there or something of the sorts. I didn't put anything in the center there, but you definitely could. All right, I think my time is just about up, so make sure you go over to the Craft Around the Clock group and watch all the amazing crafters that are over there this week in Grocery Trash to Treasure. So this is my version of Grocery Trash to Treasure. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see y'all next time. Bye, guys.